Hello, we're indoors because it's pissing with rain. Did a couple of videos recently about hammers, and in those videos I said that I would eventually get round to doing a little video about how to re-haft a hammer. Haven't got there yet, but this is the start of that video. Basically it's come up my priority list because there's a lot of people actually looked at the video about hammers. If you saw that video, you'll see, or you will remember, this hammer, which I thought said Joe on it. There's a lot of hammers like this one. This one's got a crow's foot on it as well, which suggests that it's War Department during the last World War or just after, and that actually says 1940. Well, I thought I'd re-haft this hammer, and I started cleaning it up, and on this side I found a crown, and the date 1930 or 1936. Been a bit messed up by people hitting something with this edge, but on the other side it says job brand and then something illegible, which might say 1.5 pounds. This gives you the weight of the hammer. And this is a cross-pein hammer. This is the cross-pein, that's a flat pein, and it's had some little bits spoil off it, but overall it seems to be in fairly sound condition. And as it says here, 1936, let's say, rather than 1930, means it was made before the First World War. The crown suggests that it was made on a government contract. Where else can you go to a car boot sale and pay £2 or less? I can't remember how much I paid for this, but I know it's very cheap, for a hammer with a loose head, or anything, even with a fault like that, and find out this 18 years short of a century old. And you can do a little bit of work on it and turn it into something that will still be very, very useful, whether it's for driving nails or doing sheet metal work. Note the balance in size between the flat pein and the cross pein. This cross pein is smaller than a lot of the ones you get, such as over here. Oh, it's got buried. There we go. This is a modern White House, which is a good brand, and the cross pein's rather larger. So anyway, pardon the mess, I've got lots of stuff going on, as I always have. Hammerheads get loose, they get loose with time, they get loose with use, and especially if the handle dries out, and the handle will dry out over time. So the idea is that you apply little and often small amounts of oil, especially vegetable oil, but ordinary mineral oil will do, like engine oil for a car, basically to keep it swelled up and keep it nice and tight on the head. If we look at this one here, you didn't see those in the other videos because I've only just refound these, and these are all rather small. My father used to have quite a lot of hammers this size, and I used to wind him up by calling them prating hammers. Why would you want a hammer like this? Well, he knew. He was a scientific and technical instrument maker by profession, so a ball peen hammer like this would be used for small sized jobs. So a small ball peen like this would be used for small riveting jobs, such as, if I can find it, it was here a minute ago. Let's have a look at these ones. Right, that's the draw knife. Oh, there it is, that's what I was looking for. Okay, small size draw knife, very, very useful. No maker's name on it, but it says warranted. And you can see that the two handles, which in this case are round and they're very scarred, it's seen a hell of a lot of use over its years, but it's been relatively well looked after. And this is probably again getting on for a century old. And you can see that there's a tang goes through each handle, bent over at 90 degrees here, up through, dishwasher, and then riveted over at the end. And you can just about see with the eye of faith that there are round strike marks on this. And you can see that slightly clearer on this one, which has been re-riveted, and it's basically been cut down because the tang has been made slightly shorter and this what looks like a brass nut has been wedged on and then riveted over. If you used a bigger ball peen on that, you'd probably obliterate it. And the other issue is, because that goes right the way through the handle, the idea is to upset the end, make it bigger diameter than the washer it goes through. You smack it with a big one, you might actually bend it within the handle and split it. So, small hammer for small jobs. And that is definitely a small hammer. And so is this one. And you can see the name on that. Oh, they're letting off the big guns over at Lulworth. GoPro probably picked that up. Got the remains of a maker's name on that. Either that or it says all cast steel. The maker's name might have been on that head. So small hammer, again from a car boot sale. And you can see how it's supposed to work. The wedge has gone. Some of the wood has broken away. But the wedge is still wider than the centre, and that's basically a negative of the tunnel on the hammer. If you look at it in here, you can see that this end is nearly parallel, and this end, the aperture, is a bigger diameter than the centre of the tunnel. So the head is supposed to go down on the handle, like this, so that it's too wide for the hammer head to come down the handle anymore, and it's basically to sit in there nice and tight, and put this in nice and dry and not freshly soaked in vegetable oil, for instance, which will make it swell and it will then dry out and shrink. Then the wedges go in and spread it out that way and that way. This has only had one wedge in apparently, which you can get away with a very small hammer. This one, which we just saw, has got two wedges. It's got a longitudinal wooden wedge, then a metal wedge going across. You might be able to fit two in this eye. If you look at it, then with the eye of faith, you can see that it could ideally be swelled out more this way rather than that way. The timber wedge is obviously swelled it out wider than this wedge. You need it to fit very, very close and very, very tight both ways, especially that way, because as you're hammering, it's going to tend to try and make the head rock on the handle, which is what you can see happening here. How the wedges work can be seen on this axe, which I started doing anyway. Hang on, let's do that. Need more hands or a tripod. We've not got around to getting a tripod yet. This axe head was loose on the haft and has been for quite some time. What I was able to do is pick out the wedges. See, the wedge was in three pieces. This bit's gone AWOL years ago. And then we have these little metal wedges. Can you see that? And you can see the way they've got barbs on them, which basically stops them from coming out. And they've got barbs in both planes, side to side and back to front. They're made of steel. Another one here. And you can see that they go through the longitudinal wedge when it's already put in place and swell the head out that way. And that's the remains of the wedge. This wedge appears to be made of ash, but hardwood is better. And the idea is to fit the wedge so it goes the full length of the end of your eye, and then to taper it, like you see on this wedge, which is some kind of tropical hardwood, which is as hard as hard as hard. I've no idea what this is, but I tend to pick up bits of wood as and when I find them and keep them to one side. You can probably tell from this place that I've got slight hoarder tendencies. Can't throw away anything that might turn out to be useful. So you can see what's happened here. And basically, not supposed to do it like this, but this should be fairly loose. Right, gonna have to put you down. I'll come back to you in a minute. I'll take the handle out of this head. Right, we're back. I've basically taken the head off this axe. You can see the way it's been moving on the head. The way I took it off was to hold it that way up, and then using a mallet, which is this one here, which is a nylon mallet, and it's got two faces, a rough face and a better face. I'll use the rough face, hit it there with the thing upside down and held just off the floor. Don't hold it at waist height, it'll drop off on your feet. So that comes off like that, and you can look at, before we do that, you see the shape of the axe head. This end has got more of a beard, it extends downwards more. That is usual with an axe. More modern ones tend to be more symmetrical. The top is flat, comes out at a slight flare. This has got more of a flare, more of a beard. You can get bearded axes which extend a long way down here. They're usually used for hewing. So that comes off of there, and if you look in the tunnel, you can see that this side is flared out. Someone at some point has drilled in here. That should ideally be smoothed out. Then in the centre it's smaller diameter, and this side is swelled out or belled out more this way and that way. Again, if you look at the axe haft, it's a good idea if you're doing this to try and preserve the original profile of your axe haft. See the way it's swelled out that way, and with the eye of faith you can just see that it's swelled out this way. If you look at it over the top, that's the shape of the axe handle, of the axe eye. So what I need to do is bring the thing down a little bit lower. Obviously if you bring it down too far, it's going to get smaller in this dimension across the length of the axe head than it is here. So I can only go down to about here maximum. If you come down too far, the head's going to start sliding down the handle or rocking this way. And I've just about got enough meat here to bring this down. Use the original split, extend it down a little bit further with a saw, but you can see that it's actually further down. Make a new wedge, which will be made to the size of this, and then put into cross wedges. And I'll probably use a bit of timber that's wider than this, because of course that doesn't go the whole way, and as it goes in it'll be slightly tapered again to match this. Because obviously if your longitudinal wedge goes all the way across and it's too short, you can end up with a gap. Okay, and you can see how far down the split has gone. So this is where the axe originally ended, about here, and it's gone just over halfway down, possibly as far as 2/3. So we'll extend it down a little bit further and then drop the head. But that's for another day, and I shall report on the results of that. And we will do the same with this little chap. If I pull him off, should be able to do it one-handed because he's pretty loose. Let's put it down a moment, you can have a look at that axe. And all the crap and the spanners on me rack. Always the same when you've got an audience, stuff doesn't work quite as well. Okay, here we go, working one-handed. Maintain the orientation of the haft. What I tend to do is mark one side of the haft, and I'll use that with a draw knife, because the thing isn't going to be exactly symmetrical. Have a look at your head and you can see inside the tunnel it's pretty crispy, so I'll clean that out with a file. And the other thing to look at is the ends here. If someone's been hitting the top of the hammer, as they have on this old chap, which some of you will have seen before, I've actually partly taken this handle off, taken the nails out, or or some of the nails out, and you can actually see where they've been hitting it to drive it back on the haft. It's swelled this in, so this is never going to fit precisely. Also, it's very, very rusty inside and outside. But this head, I think, is a lot older than that 1931 that we're working on now. So we'll clean all that up and then we'll come back. That's all for now. See you later.